artist intelligence.
Hello, Jen. How are you?
Hi, Ben. I'm doing all right, thanks. How are you doing?
I'm very busy. Christmas is approaching us
It's that time of
rapidly.
year.
It is. It's the most wonderful, busy time of the year. Um, so while we're wrapping everything up for that, why don't you tell us what's going on in episode 2 of Artist Intelligence?
Yeah, so this time it's my turn to talk through something. And so this is a video that evolved from a written guide that we had in the studio for our external suppliers and clients. And it's aimed at illustrators who have been asked or might be asked to prepare their artwork. But I think it could be entertaining for anyone with an interest in animation. Or if you're working in the publishing industry as an art director, or just anyone else in the publishing industry who's interested to see how this stuff works, and to have a bit more information about the pipeline between 2D illustration and After Effects animation.
Wonderful. Well, that's great. Why don't you take it away?
So, this is Collaborate's guide to preparing your artwork for After Effects animation. In the Collaborate studio, our animation team, such as me and Ben, often work together with freelance illustrators to bring their artwork to life using Adobe After Effects. But if you don't know the process, it's a bit tricky to know how best to set up your illustration files, and this early work goes a long way to keeping the process smooth and helping the final product look its best. So, I've put together some handy tips that cover the basics, so that we can get your artwork wiggling around all over the screen. Part 1. Setting up files. File types. We work with Adobe Photoshop PSD files for bitmap or raster artwork, and Adobe Illustrator AI files for vector artwork. These are the formats that are compatible with Adobe After Effects and retain all of the layered data properly. If you work in an alternative program such as Procreate on the iPad, you'll need to export your files as PSD or AI files. Next up, canvas size. You might be used to working at 300 dpi or dots per inch for print projects, but you can work at 72 dpi if you're creating assets directly for animation when the project doesn't have any print requirements. The pixel dimensions are the most important thing. Artwork needs to be created at a dimension large enough to handle the maximum scale you'll see on screen. If your assets are created too small, then they'll become pixelated in close-up shots. For 4K projects, we need 3840 by 2160 pixels. For standard HD projects, we need 1920 by 1080 pixels. Bitmap artwork can usually be scaled down if it's too big, but scaling it up will cause a loss of quality, whereas vector artwork can scale to any size. Color mode. Always deliver animation asset files in RGB color space, not CMYK. Importing a CMYK file to After Effects will cause the layers to become flattened. We recommend that you do this yourself because if we have to do it on our end, some layer effects might not convert properly and your artwork might end up looking a bit different to how you intended. Part 2. The basic rules. When setting up your files, every movable part needs to be on a separate layer. If one part will move in front of another part, then it needs to be placed above it in the layer hierarchy. Always name your layers. Animators need to be able to quickly understand which bit of artwork is on which layer. When working in PSD files, please also name any folders you've used to group layers. Always create complete artwork for anything that moves, and anything behind it. For example, have a look at how this lower leg is missing a part when you try and rotate it. And when this moves, it reveals a gap in the background. Clipping masks should import correctly from PSD files, but please be wary of applying masks to multiple moving parts or using raster artwork as texture in vector files. Remember to clear any reference image layers. Even if they're hidden, they'll still be imported. Do keep a fully editable version of the file. Even if you're merging lines and fill color to make things tidy for import, keep that original file just in case something needs to change later on. Part 3. Setting up character artwork files. A quick note on this section, There are many different and sometimes better ways to rig characters for animation using a variety of different programs, but what we're focusing on today is a simple process that works for small budget projects or projects where animation is being added to existing print illustration. It allows us to work with 2D illustrators who don't have animation experience themselves. But I'd encourage you to look into something like Toon Boom Harmony or Moho Animation if you'd like to learn character rigging yourself from scratch. So, characters. There are a few methods we use to add animation to character artwork in After Effects. The first method is puppet warp, which is best for flexible organic movement like cloth, tentacles, or just for simple background characters that need to wiggle a bit rather than have a full range of motion. For this to work properly, the shape should be clean with extruding elements not crossing over each other so they're able to freely wiggle. Each element should be on its own layer. That might be fine for the simple bits, but what about when we want characters who can speak and act? Well, for that, we have to break down your characters into a lot of different moving parts, and we rotate and reposition these layers using the anchor point. These elements can vary from character to character, but usually for the body, there's a neck, torso, hips, upper and lower arms and hands, upper and lower legs and feet, as well as any separate features like wings and tails, and loose pieces of clothing like a scarf or a cape. For the head, we can break this down into these parts at minimum. To enable the character to talk with lip sync effect, we need a set of mouth shapes or visemes. A full range of mouths for characters usually includes these shapes, but sometimes for simplified characters we can get away with just this selection. To make the character blink, we usually ask for 2 blink layers, placed above the other eye elements. Make sure to leave transparency on the half-closed lid layer, so that the pupil and the white of the eye, the sclera, is visible beneath. Hair can be kept simple for most projects, but if we break the hair down into these pieces, it can be animated a little bit more to give a sense of depth or add a little bit more motion to the head movement. Keep accessories or clothing layers separate if they'll animate independently, like this fashionable scarf. If you're working from a script or a storyboard, check what actions a character needs to perform in each scene. Sometimes we can set a character up to be reused across multiple scenes, but other times you might need to redraw the character for specific performance or environment. For example, if you're working with bitmap artwork, you might need to create the character in both a front view and a profile view. There isn't one perfect template, and some characters might need extra layers or even fewer layers to achieve the necessary range of motion. Part 4. Vector Artwork. If you're working in Illustrator, just like with raster artwork, keep each moving part on its own named layers. Please note that in Illustrator, this only means these top level layers, not the sublayers. Match your artboard to the project's dimensions. A big advantage of working in Vector is that it can be converted to shapes in After Effects, and then the paths can be edited and animated directly, giving a bit more flexibility for the animator. However, this works best for simple and geometric styles. For more complex artwork, this technique may not be usable. We can work with more complex vector styles, but there is a risk of running into issues when files have a heavy use of clipping masks, especially nested clipping masks, open paths, compound paths, especially if they have holes, and some appearance effects and blending modes. Part 5. Background art. You can send backgrounds separately as their own file. Often backgrounds will need to be larger than the frame to allow for camera movement or to create a parallax effect. You can mark the view frame with a red box on a separate layer if you'd like. Keep your layers separated with logical depth. You might need a foreground, midground, background, and sky. For example, foreground foliage should be at the top, and clouds should be on a separate layer so they can drift gently. Remember, if it moves, it should be on a separate layer. If you have a style with a lot of layer transparency, such as a scribbly style or a watercolor style, it's worth thinking about how that transparency might reveal itself if any layers are moving behind it. Try moving things around on the canvas to see how it might look. If you're worried about this, you can add a solid color fill beneath that moving part and then flatten it together. Part 6. File delivery. Please use clear descriptive file names. Keep file names and layer names the same if providing updated artwork. Hopefully everything is signed off before animation begins, but if there's some reason artwork needs to be slightly edited by an artist after delivery of the files, and the change is small and it doesn't add any new layers, we can import the updated file easily. Include any linked files such as textures in high resolution. We usually use Dropbox or Google Drive to send and receive files. If you'd like, you can compress large projects into a single zip file before sending. Part 7. Frequently asked questions. Do I need to animate anything? Unless it's been requested, no, just provide clean layered art. Should I set the character up in every scene? Usually no, we just need the character set up once for most things, unless they're shown from a different angle in bitmap artwork, or like incredibly zoomed in or zoomed out. We'll let you know if we need multiple versions of the character. Should I crop the character to match the storyboard? No, just deliver the character art with full design on the canvas. Also, please ensure that the characters have room for their limbs to rotate. Can I merge these elements? Only if they'll never move separately. Please keep a backup with editable artwork just in case. That's everything for now. If we get a chance to work together, I hope this guide helps you to create artwork ready for twirling and zipping around in After Effects. Stay tuned for more Collaborate Artist Intelligence videos in the future. Bye!